I'm pretty sure we've all heard the most common advice we've ever heard, which is follow your passion and success will follow. I particularly read this line from a book while I was living in Los Angeles in 2013. It's called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. And it's one of those books where you can't afford to ignore. And I just got really fortunate enough to read this book at a time or during a time where brands were not prioritizing social media and digital marketing as much as today. For those who don't know, I really made noise with my brand through producing comedy skits on Vine and Facebook. By reading this book, I actually have it with me right now. I have my sticky notes and a few notes that I'd love to share with you guys. But reading this book really changed the whole trajectory and my POV towards my career. It changed my perspective towards talent, skill, honing your craft, and marketing your brand. That's what propelled my career as an artist to newer heights, because I was generating so much attention with millions of views that people couldn't ignore at that time. So follow your passion and success will follow. It sounds great, right? But Cal Newport, the author of this book, he says the idea that we can find our passion and then everything falls into place is misleading. Passion comes from mastery, not the other way around. So in chapter 1 of this book, he talks about Steve Jobs in his early career. On page 3 of chapter 1, the title of this chapter is The Passion of Steve Jobs. It says, "You've got to find what you love. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle." It makes so much sense if we backtrack. If you guys just go through the quick history of Steve Jobs when he attended Reed College, unlike other technology visionaries of his era, Jobs was not interested in either business or electronics as a student. He instead studied Western history, dance, and dabbled into Eastern mysticism. According to the book, he was a conflicted young man seeking spiritual enlightenment, and he dabbled again into electronic only to make means end. So for him, it was just a day job, right? It was just something for him to get by. It wasn't something that he figured out from the get-go that he wanted to build this empire. Jobs didn't follow a passion. He developed it by getting very good at something. And that's what Cal Newport writes in this book. Right? So again, he dropped out of college after the first year and he started working at Atari, which is a video game company where he learned the ins and outs of technology and business. This is where he got practical skills, basically hacking his way into knowledge. He was experimenting, he was gaining skills and getting better at things that sparked his interest. And through this process, Jobs started to uncover his true strengths. He observed that the local wireheads were thrilled by the arrival of model kit computers, which enthusiasts could assemble themselves at home. I'm going to read what I call the small time scheme. It's on page 9 of chapter 1. It says, Jobs pitched Wozniak the idea of designing one of these kit computer circuit boards so they could sell them to local hobbyists. The initial plan was to make the boards for $25 a piece and sell them for $50. Jobs wanted to sell 100 total, which after removing the costs of printing the boards, $1,500 fee for the initial board design, which would leave them with a nice $1,000 profit. Neither Wozniak nor Jobs left their regular jobs. This was strictly a low-risk venture meant for their free time. From this moment on, the story takes a sharp turn into the legend. It was this unforeseen opportunity that led to the birth of Apple Computer. As Newport says, Apple Computer was not decidedly born out of passion, but instead was a result of a lucky break and a small time scheme that unexpectedly took off. So the next time someone tells you to just follow your passion, just remember Steve Jobs' story. The passion he had for Apple didn't just happen. It was a result of years of learning, practicing and developing his craft. He didn't start out knowing exactly what he wanted to do, but he sure knew how to get good at something. And that's what made all the difference. That brings us to chapter 2. It says here on page 12, the key thing is to force yourself through the work. Force the skills to come. That's the hardest phase. I feel like your problem is that you're trying to judge all things in the abstract before you do them. That's the tragic mistake. Just to give you a little gist of what's going on this page, there are 3 undergrads and they're interviewing jobs. They were expecting some linear answer like work is hard, suck it up. If you don't work hard, you're not going to get success. But instead, Jobs said the key is to force yourself through the work. Force the skills to come. That's the hardest phase. But the important point that Jobs wanted to tell them was compelling careers often have complex origins that reject the simple idea that all you have to do is follow your passion. Even though it's still the introduction of the book, it gives you so much information and insight and all of the juicy parts that you really need to know. That's why I love this book so much, because it just goes right into the juice. Newport enumerates his 3 conclusions, and this is where it gets really juicy, guys. This is called The Science of Passion. Conclusion number 1, career passions are rare. Now, Newport argues that most people don't have a pre-existing passion to follow. Instead, career passions are uncommon and often develop over time rather than being something you instantly discover. So I know there's a lot of people out there that have no idea where they're going, what the trajectory of their career is, or what they even want to do with their life. That's okay. You don't have to understand everything, right? Conclusion number 2 is passion takes time. Building passion in a career doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that develops as you invest time and effort into mastering a skill and gaining experience. I'm going to open page 15 here. It really stuck out to me because the way that Professor Amy Rasniewski, I'm not sure if I'm saying her surname right, but I'm reading it as Amy Rasniewski. She's a professor at the current university where I study at Wharton. She also pretty much summarizes the difference between job versus career versus calling. And I just love how profound and straight to the point she explains it as. So it says here on page 15, and I quote, "A job is a way to pay the bills. A career is a path toward increasingly better work. And a calling is a work that's an important part of your life and a vital part of your identity." And the third conclusion, passion is a side effect of mastery. Newport asserts that passion is not the starting point for success. Instead, it's a natural byproduct of becoming excellent at something. Mastery and expertise are what ultimately spark passion for your work. It really makes me laugh because when I was in acting school, I told my acting coach, his name is Nikolai Gusov, and prior to that I studied with Ivana Chabak. These schools were all in Los Angeles, and this was way before F Around. This was way before Cebuana, way before the comedy skits. I was actually studying in acting school. This whole framework that Cal Newport talks about in this book, it resonates so much with me because back then I wasn't just blindly chasing my passion for comedy. I remember the first day of orientation with Nikolai, he asked me, what is my favorite genre? Like, what type of work do I want to get in the film industry? And I told him, I want to get drama. I want to get dramatic roles. And then he told me, why don't we try comedy? I was so hesitant, but since he's my coach and he gives me assignments to do, I had to do it. I had no choice. And the more that I was discovering comedy, the more I realized how fun it actually was and how much I could make people laugh. And that was a shocker. That was really a shocker to me. You see, I never realized the skills I had with comedy until I practiced my craft with Nikolai. And I'm so thankful, by the way, Nikolai, if you're listening to this, you really changed my life. I don't think I'd be able to produce the comedy skits if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for the skills that you instilled in me, all the late night classes that we've been through. I am so immensely thankful for the training that you gave. Again, I was honing my skills by attending acting school with Ivana Chabak and Nikolai Gusov, creating comedy skits on Vine and Facebook while doing short films and feature films in Hollywood, and putting in consistent work. As I got better at crafting my content, I began to see the attention grow. For me, mastering the art of creating skits and understanding how to market myself digitally led to something much bigger. And this is where F around comes in, and this is where Cebuana comes in. For me, mastering the art of creating skits and understanding how to market myself digitally led to something much bigger. I had to understand, and I said had because I was an independent artist. I didn't have any team. I had to understand human psychology and creating content. I was creating more than I was consuming content. And ultimately, I had to understand the market I was trying to penetrate, which was the Bisaya market. So while the world around me was starting to catch up with the digital marketing, I was already a step ahead. I wasn't just relying on raw talent or passion. This was in 2013. By the way, I had built a skill set that got people's attention and propelled my career to new heights. And this is exactly what Newport talks about in the book. Passion and success are side effects of becoming really good at something. And that's how my journey as an artist truly took off, because I became so good at creating and marketing my comedy skits that I couldn't be ignored. Like today, if we're looking at the stats, we're looking at least a minimum of 60 million views on comedy skits. This is exactly what Newport talks about in the book. Passion and success are side effects of becoming really good at something. And that's how my journey as an artist really took off. I love this term that Newport says in chapter 3. In essence, he stresses that it's more beneficial to focus on becoming excellent at something valuable and building up your career capital. Passion, he argues, is a byproduct of this mastery, not something to chase from the start. Following your passion without this foundation, he warns, is dangerous. And that's what chapter 3 is called. Passion is dangerous. Following your passion without this foundation, he warns, is dangerous because it can cloud your judgment and prevent you from building the skills you need to succeed. Oh, I love chapter 4. I was just talking to my husband about chapter 4. It's called The Clarity of the Craftsman. And it says here, there are two different approaches to thinking about work. The craftsman mindset, a focus on what value you're producing in your job, and the passion mindset, a focus on what value your job offers you. Most people adopt the passion mindset, but in this chapter, I argue that the craftsman mindset is the foundation for creating work you love. I love this chapter so much. I was just talking to my husband about this, and we discussed that the craftsman mindset focuses on developing rare and valuable skills through continuous improvement and dedication to your craft, rather than on seeking immediate external rewards. When you adopt the craftsman mindset, you stop focusing on what you can get, like a steady paycheck every 15th and 30th of the month, and instead focus on what you can give. The craftsman mindset aligns with intrinsic motivation, and it gives you a sense of control over your career as it allows you to continuously build your career capital. Now let me take you back to the early days of my career when Cebuana first took off. At that point, I wasn't focused on anything but making sure the music I was putting out was the best it could be. It was all about obsessively focusing on the quality of what I produced, which, according to Cal Newport, is the key to success in any creative field, especially music. I didn't have major connections in the industry, but what I had was a drive to perfect my sound. I've been working in the entertainment industry ever since I was 4 years old. And ever since then, I never stopped writing songs. I never stopped recording, but I made my first hit at the age of 21. The quality of the song would speak for itself. And if I could deliver something authentic and unique, people would notice. In Newport's book, he talks about how in professional music, the focus should always be on what you produce, not all the external stuff. So I'm going to read that here on page 36. This is really interesting, guys. I'm going to read here from page 36. Here's what I respect. creating something meaningful and then presenting it to the world. An obsessive focus on the quality of what you produce is the rule in professional music. It trumps your appearance, your equipment, your personality, and your connections. Studio musicians have this adage: the tape doesn't lie. Immediately after the recording comes the playback. Your ability has no hiding place. I love that phrase. Whether you're a guitar player, a comedian, or an entrepreneur, what you produce is basically all that matters. It's what you produce. What is the product? It all comes down to the product or the output of what you're producing. The craftsman mindset focuses on what you can offer the world. The passion mindset focuses instead on what the world can offer you. The biggest takeaway from this chapter to me, Cita babes, is that regardless of what you do for a living, approach your work like a true performer. I wanted to simplify this framework. Newport, the author of this book, compares career capital to money in the bank. The more you have, the more options you have for shaping your career. He emphasizes that the process of accumulating career capital is slow and requires persistence. Now, it's not about following a passion immediately, but about building up skills that are valuable in the marketplace. As you continue to gain expertise, you will gain more freedom and opportunities. Additionally, Newport points out that the more career capital you accumulate, the more you can negotiate for autonomy in your job, meaning you can shape your role and the type of work you do based on your expertise, rather than having to follow the typical career ladder. He also highlights that in the long run, the best jobs and most fulfilling careers are those where individuals have the freedom to focus on what truly excites them, and career capital is the key to unlocking this freedom. I'm gonna read on chapter 5, page 48. It says here, the craftsman mindset, with its relentless focus on becoming so good they can't ignore you, is a strategy well suited for acquiring career capital. This is why it trumps the passion mindset if your goal is to create work you love. Newport argues that building rare and valuable skills often require stepping out of your comfort zone, facing doubts, and being willing to make difficult decisions, such as choosing a path that may not immediately feel like the passion you're supposed to follow. This takes a lot of courage because it involves confronting the unknown, whether it's in your field of work or the types of opportunities you choose to pursue. And it says here on page 51 about courage. On page 51, it says, the biggest obstacle between you and work you love is a lack of courage. The courage required to step away from other people's definition of success and to follow your dream. If there's some perfect job waiting for us out there, every day we're not following this passion is a wasted day. The downside of the passion mindset is that it strips away merit. Now let's talk about deliberate practice for a moment. It's all about pushing yourself beyond what you already know. So if you're just going through the motions and you're doing the same thing over and over without challenging yourself, then you're not going to see any improvement. But if you actively seek feedback, analyze your weakness, and work on those, that's where the magic happens. That's what allows you to grow. Now, this brings me to another key point in Newport's chapter. It's not just about working harder, but it's about working smarter. Sure, 10,000 hours sounds like a lot, but if you're not focusing on the right things, you might be spending all that time without actually getting any better. Instead, focus on deliberate practice, doing things that make you grow and improve your craft. And for those that don't know the 10,000 hour rule popularized by Malcolm Gladwell, it suggests basically that 10,000 hours on any activity will lead you to mastery. It focuses on quantity, just the sheer amount of time spent practicing. Now, Newport, on the other hand, he emphasizes deliberate practice, which we just spoke about a while ago, it focuses on the quality over the quantity. According to Newport, it's not just about putting in the hours, but about focusing on the areas of weakness and constantly pushing yourself beyond your current skill level. Deliberate practice involves structured, intentional efforts to improve rather than just mindlessly repeating tasks. One of the things that really resonated with me in this chapter is the importance of patience. Building a successful career doesn't happen instantly. It's a gradual process. It's all about committing to continuous improvement step by step. One step at a time, right? Just take it one day at a time. Literally, that song means step by step, committing to continuous improvement. And as I look back at my journey, I can see that the toughest moments were the times when I had to push myself to learn new skills, whether it was perfecting my music production or figuring out how to promote myself or the music production and the visuals. I remember crying in the studio, frustrated from re-recording my verses for the song No Apology. I think I did more than 10 takes on the whole song. Basically, my vocals were never quite right. It was either they were too aggressive, too soft, too loud, you name it. I had to keep re-recording. And it wasn't just about getting the technical aspects right, but it was about finding the emotion that would allow me to truly connect with the listener and communicate the intention behind the song through my vocals. But each of those steps, no matter how difficult, was necessary to get to where I am today. It was all about the work ethic. So if you're just starting out or feel like you're not where you want to be yet, I want you to remember this. Deliberate practice is what makes you exceptional. It's the key to turning your passion into something real. And like Newport says, it's about building career capital, mastering valuable skills that allows you to eventually create a career that aligns with your values and your passions. And this is where I'll end today's episode. I hope this conversation about the craftsman mindset, patience, and the journey to mastery resonates with you as much as it did for me. I hope you were able to reflect on your own journey as I did. I took down a lot of notes, and go ahead. I would love to see your notes. Just comment down below. I also want to thank the author of this book, Cal Newport, and to all the guests listening to this episode, thank you so much for tuning in. We just discussed chapters 1 to 7. If you're loving this journey, I highly recommend picking up the book yourself. It's the book that really changed my career. I'll put a purchase link below for you guys so you don't have to search so hard. Or you can just stay tuned for the next episode where we'll dive into chapters 8 to 15 of So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. This book is so good that you cannot ignore to buy. Again, this is Karencitta of the Karencitta Show Season 2. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcasts. And I'll see you next week.